The fluorescent lights of County General Hospital buzz like angry wasps at 2 in the morning. Isla Chen moved through the empty corridors with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to survive on 3 hours of sleep and vending machine coffee. Her scrubs were faded from too many washings, her sneakers held together with duct tape. She'd carefully matched to the white canvas, and her dark hair was pulled into a bun so tight it gave her a headache. But headaches were free, and hairstyles that required products weren't. She pushed her cleaning cart past the ICU, past the surgical wing, toward the private rooms where people with good insurance recovered in something resembling comfort. This was her second job. By day, she worked at a dry cleaner's in Chinatown, breathing in chemical fumes for $9 an hour. By night, she mopped floors and emptied bedpans at the hospital for $11. The math was simple. 2 jobs meant she could keep her younger sister May in community college. Meant they could keep the studio apartment in the building with the broken elevator and the radiator that clanged like church bells. Meant they could eat something besides instant ramen at least 4 nights a week. Isla had stopped dreaming about her own life years ago, right around the time their mother's illness had drained their savings and then taken her anyway. Now, at 26, if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. She dreamed in practical terms. Pay the electric bill. Buy May new shoes for her lab classes. Maybe, if there was anything left, replace the coffee maker that only worked if you hit it at the right angle. She paused outside room 447, checking her chart. The patient had been discharged that afternoon, which meant a full clean strip the bed, sanitize every surface, prepare it for whoever's emergency would fill it next. She pushed open the door and stopped. Someone was still in the room. A man stood by the window, silhouetted against the city lights beyond. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Isla made in 6 months. He didn't turn around, but she could tell he'd heard her enter by the slight tension in his posture. "I'm sorry," Isla said quickly. "I thought this room was empty. I'll come back." "It is empty." His voice was low, controlled, with an edge that made her instinctively take a step back. "The patient died 4 hours ago." Isla's throat tightened. She'd seen death before, too many times in this job. But something about the way he said it made the air feel heavy. "I'm sorry for your loss. Don't be." He finally turned, and Isla's breath caught. Even in the dim light from the hallway, she could see he was striking. Sharp jaw, dark eyes that seemed to look through her rather than at her, and an expression of such carefully controlled grief that it made her chest ache. He was a soldier. He knew the risks. A soldier. The word felt wrong somehow, like a code for something else. "I should let you have some privacy," Isla said, already backing toward the door. Something about this man made her nervous in a way she couldn't name. It wasn't fear, exactly. It was more like recognition the way a rabbit recognizes a wolf, even if they've never met. "Wait." He moved away from the window, and she could see him more clearly now. Mid-30s, maybe, with the kind of face that belonged on movie screens, except for the hardness in his eyes. "You work here?" "I'm just environmental services," Isla said. "I clean the rooms. At 2 in the morning. It's when they need cleaning." She shifted her weight, wanting to leave but not quite able to while he was looking at her like that. Like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve. "I really should go. If you need more time. What's your name?" The question was so unexpected that she answered before thinking. "Isla." "Isla." He repeated it like he was tasting the word. "I'm Dante." She nodded. Not sure what to say to that. Rich people always introduced themselves. In hospitals, like their names were gifts. She'd learned not to engage, not to form connections. The patient in 302 who'd been so kind, who'd talked to Isla about her own daughter studying nursing, had died 3 weeks ago. The teenager in 519, who joked with her while she mopped, calling her the coolest janitor ever, had been transferred to hospice. "I really do need to clean this room," Isla said gently, "but I can absolutely come back. Take all the time you need." Dante looked around the room as if seeing it for the first time. The stripped bed, the medical equipment that had been wheeled away, the empty space where a life had been. "No," he said. "I should go. There's nothing left here anyway." He walked past her, and Isla caught the scent of expensive cologne and something else. Not cigarette smoke seekers, maybe. And underneath it all, the faint copper smell that she'd learned meant blood, though she couldn't see any on his perfectly pressed suit. At the doorway, he paused. "Thank you, Isla. I didn't do anything. You treated me like a person." He glanced back at her, and for just a second, the hardness cracked, and she saw something raw underneath. You'd be surprised how rare that is. Then he was gone, and Isla was alone with her cart and her questions. She cleaned the room methodically, trying not to think about Dante or his dead soldier, or the way his grief had felt like a living thing in the space between them. She'd learned not to get curious about the people who passed through this hospital. Their stories weren't hers to carry. But as she stripped the bed and found a single spent bullet casing that had somehow rolled under the mattress, she wondered what kind of soldier leaves behind ammunition in a civilian hospital. She dropped the casing in the sharps container, finished the room, and moved on to the next one. By 4 a.m., her shift was half over, and her back was screaming. By 6, she was punching out and heading for the subway, eyes already gritty with exhaustion. By 7, she was at Golden Dragon Dry Cleaners, tying on her apron and facing another 9 hours of steam and starch. This was her life. 2 jobs, no breaks, no complaints. She'd chosen this the day she'd promised May that dropping out of school herself wouldn't be for nothing, that her little sister would get every opportunity their mother had wanted for them both. But sometimes, in the space between sleep and waking, Isla let herself imagine something different. A life where she could breathe without calculating the cost. Where she could go to a cafe and order something off menu just because it sounded good. Where she could sleep for 8 full hours without an alarm. Those thoughts lasted about 30 seconds before reality reasserted itself. Dreaming was expensive, and Isla couldn't afford the price. The kiss happened by accident. It was New Year's Eve, and Chinatown exploded with celebration. Red lanterns swayed in the winter wind, firecrackers popped like gunfire, and the streets filled with people laughing, drinking, kissing at midnight. Isla had pulled a double shift at the hospital because holiday pay was time and a half, and she'd gone straight to meet May at their favorite spot, a tiny dumpling place wedged between a pharmacy and a shop selling paper decorations. "You look dead," May said cheerfully as Isla collapsed into the booth. At 19, her sister still had that bright optimism that Isla had lost somewhere between their mother's funeral and her first overnight shift. Like, actual zombie dead. "I feel dead." Isla reached for the tea May had already ordered. "But I'm vertical, so that counts for something." "You work too hard." "You're worth it." May's expression softened. "Isla, don't." Isla cut her off gently. "We've had this conversation. You're staying in school. That's not negotiable. But you never do anything for yourself. When's the last time you went out? Saw friends? Went on a date? I went out last week. Remember? I walked to the bodega instead of the closer one because they had eggs on sale. That doesn't count." "It should. I saw sunlight and everything." May threw a dumpling at her. Isla caught it, ate it, and felt the knot in her chest loosen slightly. This was why she did it. These moments, her sister's laugh, the warmth of the restaurant, the simple comfort of hot food and good company. They ate and talked, and for an hour, Isla let herself forget about bills and exhaustion. When midnight approached, they paid and stepped outside into the chaos. The countdown had started, everyone shouting numbers at the sky. "Make a wish," May said, squeezing Isla's hand. "That's birthdays. Make one anyway." Isla closed her eyes. She wished for May's happiness, for her sister to get everything she deserved, for this year to be easier than the last. She wished for the crowd surged as midnight hit. Someone bumped into Isla hard, sending her stumbling forward. She threw out her hands, to catch herself, and instead caught someone's jacket. Momentum carried her forward, and suddenly her lips were pressed against another person's. She jerked back immediately, horrified. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The man she'd accidentally kissed stood perfectly still. He wore a long black coat, his hands in his pockets, and he was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Around them, couples were kissing on purpose, and the noise was deafening, but in that moment, Isla felt like they were the only 2 people on the street. Then she recognized him. "Dante?" His eyes widened slightly. "Isla." The hospital. Room 447. The man with the dead soldier and the grief that had felt like broken glass. "I'm so sorry," she said again, her face burning. "Someone pushed me, and I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to." I know. His voice was as controlled as she remembered, but something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or something else entirely. Are you all right? I'm just mortified. She tried to laugh, but it came out strangled. I promise I don't just go around kissing random people. We're not random. He glanced around at the celebrating crowd, then back at her. We've met. Once. For like 5 minutes. Still counts. May appeared at Isla's elbow, eyes wide with curiosity. Isla? You want to introduce me to your friend? He's not. Isla started, then stopped because she didn't know what Dante was. A stranger she'd kissed by accident? A grieving man she'd met while cleaning a hospital room? Someone who looked at her like she was something rare and breakable? This is Dante. Dante, this is my sister, May. Nice to meet you. May's gaze bounced between them, clearly picking up on some tension. So, how do you two know each other? We don't, really, Isla said quickly. I met him at the hospital. At work. You work at a hospital? May asked Dante. No. His attention hadn't left Isla. I was visiting someone. An awkward silence descended. Around them, the celebration continued, but Isla felt frozen in place. She could still feel the ghost of that accidental kiss, the brief press of his lips against hers. Soft but firm. Warm despite the cold night. She shouldn't be thinking about it. It had been an accident, meaningless, the kind of thing that happened in crowds on New Year's Eve. Except the way Dante was looking at her didn't feel meaningless. It felt heavy, weighted with something she didn't understand. We should go, Isla said, grabbing May's arm. It's late, and I have work in the morning. It's New Year's Day, May protested. Nothing's open. The hospital's always open, Isla. Dante's voice stopped her from fleeing. Wait. She turned back reluctantly. What? He hesitated, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked uncertain, like he was making a decision in real time and wasn't sure of the answer. Are you free tomorrow night? I what? Dinner or coffee, whatever. He prefer. He pulled out a card, held it out to her. Call me. Isla stared at the card like it might bite her. You don't even know me. I'd like to. Why? Because you kissed me at midnight on New Year's Eve, and I haven't been able to think straight for the last 30 seconds. A slight smile touched his mouth, the first she'd seen from him. And because when we met at the hospital, you were kind without expecting anything in return. That's rare. I was just doing my job. No. His voice softened. You were being yourself. There's a difference. May elbowed Isla hard. Take the card, she hissed. Take the card. Isla took it. The paper was heavy, expensive, with just a name Dante Moretti and a phone number. No title, no company. Like he expected people to know who he was. I work a lot, Isla said. I might not be able to. Then call me when you can. Dante's eyes held hers. I'll wait. Before she could respond, someone called his name from down the street. A man, in a dark suit, serious-faced, urgent. Dante's expression shifted immediately, the momentary softness replaced by that controlled hardness she'd seen in the hospital. I have to go, he said. But I meant what I said. Call me. Then he was walking away, swallowed by the crowd, leaving Isla standing there with his card in her hand and her sister staring at her like she'd grown a second head. What? May said slowly. Just happened? I have no idea. He was gorgeous, like movie star gorgeous. And he looked at you like you were the only person in the entire city. May grabbed Isla's shoulders. You're calling him. You're absolutely calling him. I can't. I don't have time for dating. You don't have time for breathing either, but you manage that. Isla, when's the last time someone looked at you like that? Never, Isla thought but didn't say. No one had ever looked at her like that. Like she mattered. Like she was something precious. Like one accidental kiss had rearranged something fundamental in his world. She looked down at the card in her hand, at the name that sounded vaguely Italian and definitely important. Dante Moretti. Who was he? What did he do? And why did someone like him want to have dinner with someone like her? Come on, she said finally, pocketing the card. Let's go home. But as they navigated through the crowded streets, past the red lanterns and the fireworks, and the couples still kissing at Dos, 05 a.m., Isla couldn't stop thinking about the way Dante had looked at her, like he'd been lost and she was the map, like he'd been drowning and she was air. It was dangerous letting herself think like this. Dangerous to imagine that someone like him could want someone like her for any real reason. Men like Dante Moretti with their expensive coats and their mysterious business, and their eyes that had seen too much, didn't fall for janitors who wore duct-taped shoes and lived in studio apartments with broken elevators. This was a moment, nothing more. A funny story to tell someday. Remember that time I accidentally kissed a random guy on New Year's Eve? Except he wasn't random. And the way her heart was still racing suggested it hadn't been just a moment. When they finally made it home, climbing 5 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken again, May made hot chocolate while Isla collapsed on their worn couch. The card sat on the coffee table between them, innocuous and terrifying. "You're thinking about it," May observed. "I'm not. You're totally thinking about it. I can see it on your face." Isla sighed. "What if I call and he doesn't remember who I am? What if it was just a weird impulse and tomorrow he regrets giving me his number? What if he meant exactly what he said? And you're overthinking because you're scared." May sat beside her. "Look, I know you've spent the last 5 years putting your life on hold for me, and I love you for it, but Isla, you're allowed to want things too. You're allowed to be happy. I am happy. You're surviving. That's not the same thing." The words hit harder than they should have, because May was right. Isla had been surviving for so long that she'd forgotten what happiness even felt like. She paid bills and worked shifts, and made sure her sister had everything she needed. And somewhere along the way, she'd stopped believing she deserved anything more. But for just a second tonight, when Dante had looked at her like she was something miraculous, she'd felt it, that flutter of possibility, that dangerous hope that maybe, just maybe, her life could be more than just getting through each day. "I'll think about it," Isla said finally. May grinned. "That's all I'm asking." They finished their hot chocolate and went to bed, May in the actual bedroom and Isla on the pull-out couch that had a spring that dug into her back, no matter how she positioned herself. She lay awake for a long time, staring at the water-stained ceiling, thinking about accidental kisses and men with sad eyes and the way fate sometimes pushed you exactly where you needed to go. She didn't know then that calling that number would change everything, that Dante Moretti wasn't just some wealthy businessman with a tragic past, that his soldier had actually been a soldier, just not the legal kind, that the world he inhabited was darker and more dangerous than anything she could imagine. All she knew was that for the first time in 5 years, she'd felt something other than tired. And that feeling, terrifying as it was, felt like waking up. 3 days passed before Isla called. She told herself it was because she was busy, which was true. Double shift at the hospital, full day at the dry cleaners, an evening spent helping May study for her anatomy midterm. But the real reason was fear. Fear of disappointment, of rejection, of hoping for something that would inevitably fall apart. On the 4th day, May literally handed her the phone. "Call him or I'm doing it for." That's manipulation. It's motivation. There's a difference. May crossed her arms. "Isla, you've stared at that card approximately 800 times. Just call. What's the worst that could happen?" "Everything," Isla thought. But she dialed anyway. He answered on the 2nd ring. Dante Moretti. His voice, formal and clipped, made her almost hang up. This was a mistake. He'd given her his number in a moment of impulse. Probably regretted it immediately. Definitely didn't remember. "Hi," she managed. "It's Isla. From New Year's Eve. The accidental kiss?" Oh God. Why did she say it like that? "I mean, we met at the hospital first, and then... Isla." The formality melted from his voice. "I was starting to think you wouldn't call. I work a lot. I remember." A pause. "Are you free tonight?" "Tonight." In 3 hours, she was supposed to start her hospital shift. But something in his voice, that note of genuine hope, made her do something she'd never done before. "Yes," she lied. "I'm free. I'll pick you up at 7, Dante said. "Text me your address." After she hung up, Isla stared at her phone in disbelief. She'd just agreed to a date. She'd just called off work for the first time in 3 years, and she had exactly 2 hours and 47 minutes to figure out what someone wore to dinner with a man like Dante Moretti. "You said yes," May was practically bouncing. Oh my God, you actually said yes. I'm an idiot. You're brave. There's a difference. May was already pulling Isla toward their shared closet, which was really just a curtained-off corner of the studio. Okay, what are we working with? What they were working with was depressing. Work scrubs, work polo shirts from the dry cleaners, 2 pairs of jeans with holes that weren't fashionable, and a black dress Isla had bought for their mother's funeral 5 years ago. The dress, May decided, with your good boots, and I'll do your makeup. I don't have good boots. I have work. Boots and sneakers with duct tape. I have boots you can borrow. Your feet are 2 sizes smaller than mine. Then we'll stuff the toes with toilet paper and you'll walk. Carefully. May was undeterred. Isla, you're going on a date with a gorgeous man who looked at you like you hung the moon. We're making this work. Isla let her sister take control because the alternative was thinking too hard about what she was doing. She showered in their temperamental bathroom where the water pressure was a suggestion rather than a guarantee. She put on the funeral dress, which was loose now because she'd lost weight since then. Survival didn't leave much room for regular meals. May did her makeup with surprising skill. And when Isla finally looked in their cracked mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked almost pretty, almost like someone who belonged in the same world as a man named Dante Moretti. You're beautiful, May said softly. I wish Mom could see you. Isla's throat tightened. Their mother would have loved this, would have fussed over her hair and given advice about first dates and reminded her that Chen women didn't settle for anything less than extraordinary. She'd tell me I'm being stupid, Isla said, that I should focus on practical things. She'd tell you that practical doesn't mean dead inside. May squeezed her hand. She'd want you to be happy. At exactly 7 p.m., Isla's phone buzzed. I'm downstairs. She grabbed her coat, the only one she owned, a thin thing from Target 3 winters ago, and headed down the 5 flights of stairs, her borrowed boots pinching with each step. When she pushed through the building's front door, she stopped short. A black car idled at the curb. Not a vehicle that looked like it cost more than her entire building. Sleek dark, with windows tinted so black she couldn't see inside. As she approached, the back door opened, and Dante stepped out. He wore a dark suit, no tie, the collar of his white shirt open at the throat. In the glow of the streetlights, he looked different than he had in the hospital or at the New Year's celebration. More dangerous, more real. Isla. He said her name like it meant something. You look beautiful. I look like I raided a funeral home. The words came out before she could stop them. Sorry, I'm not good at taking compliments. Then I'll have to give you enough that you learn. He gestured to the car. Shall we? Isla climbed into the back seat, trying not to gawk at the interior. Leather seats that were probably softer than her bed. A partition between the front and back. Ambient lighting that made everything feel like a dream. Dante slid in beside her, and the driver, a massive man with a shaved head and a neck like a tree trunk, pulled smoothly into traffic. I should tell you, Isla said as they drove. I've never done this before. Gone to dinner? Gone to dinner with someone I barely know in a car that probably costs more than I'll make in my entire life. She looked at him. I don't know the rules here. I don't know how to act or what to say or what you expect from this. I expect you to be yourself. Dante's expression softened. The woman who apologized for interrupting my grief. The woman who kissed me by accident and looked mortified. That's who I want to have dinner with. Why? Because everyone else in my life is performing, playing a role, wanting something. He held her gaze. You don't want anything from me. You don't even know who I am. That's refreshing. Isla thought about the card in her purse with just his name and number. Who are you, Dante Moretti? Someone who's been alone for a very long time. His answer wasn't what she expected. Someone who met a woman who cleaned hospital rooms at 2 a.m. and treated him like a human being. Someone who got kissed by accident on New Year's Eve and hasn't stopped thinking about it since. The honesty in his voice made her chest ache. I think about it too, she admitted. The kiss. I keep telling myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just momentum and bad timing, but it felt like something. Yeah, she looked out the window as the city blurred past. It felt like something. They drove in comfortable silence until the car pulled up in front of a restaurant that made Isla's stomach drop. She'd walked past this place before, on her way between jobs. and always averted her eyes because even looking at it felt presumptuous. The kind of restaurant where reservations were made months in advance, where the prices weren't listed on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Dante, she said slowly, I can't eat here. Why not? Because this is, she gestured helplessly. This is too much. I don't belong here. You belong anywhere I want you to be. He said it simply, like it was fact. And I want you here. Before she could protest further, the driver opened her door. Dante offered his hand, and after a moment, Isla took it. His palm was warm, calloused in a way that surprised her. These weren't the soft hands of someone who'd never worked. Inside, the restaurant was exactly as intimidating as she'd feared. White tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, waiters who moved like dancers. Every person there looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine. And then there was Isla, in her funeral dress and borrowed boots, feeling like an imposter. But Dante's hand stayed on the small of her back, steady and reassuring, as the maître led them to a private table in the corner. Not isolated, but removed enough that conversations couldn't be overheard. Wine? Dante asked, as they settled into seats that were more comfortable than anything in Isla's apartment. I don't really drink. She picked up the menu, then immediately put it down when she saw the prices. Nothing had a number under $50. Dante, this is insane. What's insane? All of this. This restaurant, this dinner, this. She gestured between them. You could be having dinner with anyone. Models, actresses, women who actually know which fork to use. Why me? I told you why. Because I accidentally kissed you. That's not a reason. That's a coincidence. Is it? Dante leaned back, studying her with those dark eyes that saw too much. I think the universe has a strange sense of humor. I spent years building walls around myself, convinced I didn't need anyone. And then a woman I met for 5 minutes in a hospital room stumbled into my life at midnight and kissed me, and those walls just, he snapped his fingers. Gone. Isla's heart was doing something complicated in her chest. You don't know me. You don't know anything about me. Then tell me. He leaned forward. Tell me everything. Start from the beginning. So she did. Over wine she eventually accepted, and food that tasted like something from a dream. Isla told him about growing up in Chinatown, about her parents' restaurant that had failed when she was 12, about her mother's cancer diagnoses when Isla was 21, right as she'd been about to start nursing school, about the choice she'd made to drop out, to work 2 jobs, to make sure May could have the future their mother had wanted for them both. Dante listened without interrupting, without offering platitudes or solutions. He just absorbed every word like it mattered, like she mattered. Your turn, Isla said finally. Tell me about you. His expression shuddered slightly. I'm not as interesting as you think. You drive a car worth more than my building and eat at restaurants where the appetizers cost more than my rent. You're definitely interesting. She paused. And you called that man who died in the hospital a soldier. What kind of soldier? The complicated kind. Dante. He sighed, setting down his wine glass. My family is in security. Import-export businesses, property management, various investments. I took over the operations when my father died 5 years ago. It was clearly a rehearsed answer, smooth by repetition. But underneath it, Isla sensed something else. Something he wasn't saying. And the soldier? She pressed. He worked for me, provided protection for some of our more sensitive operations. Dante met her eyes. He died protecting a shipment from people who wanted to take it by force. He was 23 years old. He had a daughter he'll never meet because she was born the day after he died. The pain in his voice was raw, real. Isla reached across the table and took his hand without thinking. I'm sorry. Why? You didn't kill him. No, but you're carrying it like you did. She squeezed his hand. You can't save everyone, Dante. Sometimes people die, and it's not your fault. It's just... She struggled for words. It's just what happens. You sound like you know something about that. My mom. I worked 2 jobs trying to pay for her treatment, trying to give her more time, and she died anyway. I thought if I just worked harder, saved more money, she might still be here. Isla's voice caught. But that's not how it works. Some things we can't control, and some things we can. Dante's thumb traced circles on her palm, sending unexpected warmth up her arm. I can control keeping the people I care about safe, making sure what happened to Marco never happens again. Is that what I am? Someone you care about? Yes. No hesitation. No hesitation. From the moment you walked into that hospital room, I cared. And then you kissed me. And it became something more. After one kiss. Have you ever had a moment where everything just clicked? Where you looked at someone and thought, oh, there you are. I've been looking for you. Dante's intensity made her breath catch. That's what it felt like. Like I'd been searching for something I didn't know I needed, and suddenly you were there. Isla should have been terrified. This was too much, too fast, too intense. But instead, she felt that same click he'd described. That sense of recognition, like her soul, knew something her brain was still trying to process. I felt it too, she whispered, in the crowd when I kissed you. For just a second, everything else disappeared and it was just us. Yeah, us. They finished dinner in a haze of conversation that flowed easier than Isla had thought possible. Dante asked about May, about her plans, about the books Isla used to read before exhaustion became her constant companion. She asked about his favorite childhood memory summers in Italy with his grandmother, learning to make pasta from scratch, and his biggest fear becoming his father, whoever that was. By the time dessert arrived, something Isla couldn't pronounce but that tasted like chocolate and miracles, she'd forgotten to be nervous. Forgotten that she was wearing a funeral dress and borrowed boots. Forgotten everything except the way Dante looked at her like she was extraordinary. I should get you, A said finally, though he looked reluctant. It's late, and you have work tomorrow. I always have work tomorrow. But she stood anyway, letting him help her with her coat like she was someone worth taking care of. The drive back to Chinatown felt too short. Isla stared out the window, watching her neighborhood approach with mixed feelings. Her real life waited there, the studio apartment, the broken elevator, the morning shift at the dry cleaners that started in 6 hours. But when the car pulled up in front of her building, Dante didn't let her go immediately. Isla, he said, I want to see you again. Okay. I want to see you often. As often as you'll let me. I work constantly. I barely have time to sleep, much less, then I'll work around your schedule. Breakfast before your morning shift. Late dinners after the hospital. Coffee breaks between jobs. His hand found hers in the darkness. I'm not asking you to change your life. I'm asking to be part of it. Something in Isla's chest cracked open. No one had ever wanted to fit into her impossible schedule before. Everyone else had expected her to make room, to prioritize them, to somehow carve out time that didn't exist. Why? She asked again, because she still didn't understand. Because you're real, Isla. In a world full of people pretending, performing, wanting something from me, you're just yourself. You work 2 jobs to take care of your sister. You accidentally kiss strangers at midnight. You treat dying men with kindness even though it's not in your job description. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. You're extraordinary, and you don't even know it. Tears burned behind Isla's eyes. I'm really not. Let me prove it to you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Give me a chance to show you what I see when I look at you. She should say no. Should protect herself from the inevitable heartbreak when he realized she was just a janitor from Chinatown with duct taped shoes and a studio apartment. Should walk away before this became something that could hurt. But instead, she leaned forward and kissed him. Not by accident this time. Not because someone pushed her, but because she wanted to. Because his words had broken through defenses she'd built for 5 years and she needed to feel that click again. That sense of rightness. Dante kissed her back like she was air and he'd been drowning. His hand cupped her face, gentle but firm, and the world narrowed to just this. The taste of wine on his lips, the warmth of his palm against her cheek, the way her heart was racing like it had remembered how to hope. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. I'm going to fall in love with you, he said quietly, if I haven't already. That's crazy. Probably. He smiled, but I've never been particularly sane. Isla laughed, surprising herself. I should go. I know. But he didn't let her go immediately. Text me, when you're safe inside. And Isla, thank you for tonight. I didn't do anything. You showed up. You let me in. His eyes held hers. That's everything. She climbed out of the car, her borrowed boots pinching, her borrowed confidence wavering now that the spell of dinner was broken. But when she reached her building's door and looked back, the car was still there, waiting, making sure she got inside safely. Isla waved, feeling foolish and giddy, and terrified all at once. Dante's silhouette raised a hand in return, and then the car pulled away, and she was alone with her racing heart and the lingering taste of his kiss. Upstairs, May was still awake, pretending to study but clearly waiting. Well? It was... Isla searched for words. You're glowing. Oh my God, you're actually glowing. May grabbed her hands. Tell me everything, every single detail. So Isla did. She told her about the restaurant, the conversation, the way Dante had listened like her words were precious. She told her about his intensity, his grief over the dead soldier, the way he'd said he was going to fall in love with her like it was inevitable. What she didn't mention was the small voice in the back of her mind whispering that something was off, that men like Dante Moretti didn't exist in vacuums, that security and import-export might mean something darker than she wanted to consider. But she pushed that voice aside because for the first time in 5 years, she felt alive, and that feeling was too precious to question. Not yet. Over the next 2 weeks, Dante kept his promise. He showed up at the dry cleaners during her lunch break with takeout from places Isla had never heard of. He waited outside the hospital when her shift ended at 2 a.m., insisting on driving her home, even though it was out of his way. He sent flowers to the apartment with notes that made her blush, thinking of you and you're amazing. And once simply, I miss you. May thought it was romantic. Isla thought it was terrifying, because the more time she spent with Dante, the more she realized how little she actually knew about him. His past was a carefully guarded mystery. His work was never discussed in detail, and the men who surrounded him, always present but always at a distance, had eyes that had seen violence. But then he'd smile at her over coffee, or listen intently while she vented about difficult customers at the dry cleaners, or text her random facts he thought she'd find interesting, and all her doubts would evaporate, until the night everything changed. It was a Tuesday, which meant a double shift at the hospital. Isla had just finished cleaning the surgical wing when her phone buzzed. A text from Dante. Outside when you're ready. There's something I need to tell you. The seriousness of the message made her stomach clench. She clocked out early, grabbed her coat, and hurried outside to find the familiar black car waiting. But when she climbed in, Dante wasn't. Alone. 2 men sat across from them, both wearing suits that looked expensive and expressions that looked dangerous. Isla, Dante said carefully. We need to talk. Her mouth went dry. About what? About who I really am. He took her hand, and she noticed his palm was sweaty. Dante Moretti, who always seemed in control, was nervous, and what being with me actually means. The man on the left, older with silver threaded through his dark hair, leaned forward. Miss Chen, I'm Vincenzo Moretti, Dante's uncle. His accent was thick, Italian. Has my nephew told you about our family business? Import-export, Isla said automatically. Security, property management. Vincenzo smiled, but it wasn't kind. That's the diplomatic answer. The truth is somewhat more complicated. Vincenzo, Dante warned. She deserves to know what she's getting into. Vincenzo's gaze pinned Isla in place. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The Moretti family has been in New York for 4 generations. We've built an empire through strategic investments, careful alliances, and when necessary, force. We control territory from the docks to Midtown. We resolve disputes that the law won't touch. We protect our interests and eliminate threats. He paused. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Isla understood. She'd been willfully blind, but she understood. You're in the Mafia. We prefer to think of it as a family business, the other man said. He was younger, maybe 30, with a scar running through his left eyebrow. But yes, that's one way to describe it. The air in the car felt too thin. Isla looked at Dante, waiting for him to deny it, to explain it away, to make it something other than what it obviously was. It just met her gaze steadily. It's true. All of it. I'm not just Dante Moretti. I'm the head of the Moretti family. The man who died in the hospital. Marco, he died in a territorial dispute with a rival organization. The security I provide isn't corporate. It's protection from other families who want what we have. He squeezed her hand. And I should have told you from the beginning, but I was selfish. I wanted you to see me as just a man before you saw the rest of it. Isla pulled her hand away. Let me out. Isla, let me out of this car right now. Vincenzo nodded to the driver, and the car pulled over. Isla didn't wait for anyone to open her door. She shoved it open herself and stumbled onto the sidewalk, her breath coming in short gasps. Dante followed, catching her arm gently. Please, let me explain. Explain what? That you're a criminal? That everything about you is a lie? She jerked away from him. I thought you were different. I thought... Her voice broke. God, I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. I'm the one who should have been honest from the start. Dante looked wrecked, his composure finally cracking. But Isla, everything else was real. The way I feel about you, the things I said, the time we spent together, none of that was a lie. How would I even know? You've been lying from the beginning. I never lied. I just didn't volunteer information you didn't ask for. That's the same thing. Isla wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly freezing despite her coat. You let me believe you were someone safe, someone normal. And the whole time you were... She couldn't even say it. I'm still the man who drove you home on New Year's Eve. Still the man who wants to be part of your life. Still the man who's falling in love with you. Dante's voice was raw. The only difference is now you know the whole truth. The whole truth is that being near you is dangerous. That your world is violent and illegal and everything I've spent my life trying to avoid. Isla backed away. I can't do this. I can't be part of this. Then don't be. I'll keep you separate from all of it. You'll never have to see. It doesn't work like that. She was crying now, hot tears that blurred her vision. You can't compartmentalize a mafia empire, Dante. People get hurt. People die. And you're asking me to just ignore that? I'm asking you to see past it. To see me. I don't know who you are. The words came out broken. I thought I did, but I don't. Dante looked like she'd struck him. I need to go. She turned and started walking, not caring that she was 10 blocks from home and her feet hurt and her heart was shattering into pieces. Behind her, she heard Dante say something to Vincenzo, heard car doors close, heard the engine fade as they drove away. He let her go, and somehow, that hurt most of all. Isla walked for 3 blocks before the tears blurred her vision so badly she had to stop. She leaned against a closed storefront, pressing her palms against the cold glass, trying to remember how to breathe. Mafia. Dante Moretti was Mafia, the man who'd brought her coffee and listened to her dreams and kissed her like she was something precious. He was a criminal. He hurt people. He probably killed people. And she'd been stupid, enough to fall for him anyway. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dante. Please let me know you got home safely. I know you're angry, but I need to know you're okay. She should ignore it. Should block his number and pretend the last 2 weeks had never happened. Instead, she found herself typing back. I'm fine. Don't contact me again. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, I understand. But Isla, please be careful. There are people who might have noticed us together. People who might try to use you to get to me. If anything feels wrong, call me. Please. Her stomach dropped. Even walking away wasn't safe. He'd contaminated her life just by being in it. She made it home after midnight, climbing the stairs on legs that felt like lead. May was asleep, her anatomy textbook open on her chest. Isla carefully moved it aside, pulled a blanket over her sister, and collapsed on the pull-out couch. She didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling and thought about the way Dante had looked at her like she was his salvation. She thought about Vincenzo's cold assessment, the scar on the other man's face, the casual way they'd discussed violence like it was business. She thought about Marco, 23 years old with a daughter he'd never meet, dying in a hospital room while protecting a shipment. What was in that shipment? Drugs? Weapons? Something worse? And Dante had let her clean that room. Had stood there grieving, had looked at her with those wounded eyes, and he'd never once mentioned that Marco's death was part of something criminal. Her phone buzzed again. Not Dante this time. An unknown number. Miss Chen. This is Vincenzo Moretti. I apologize for the abrupt introduction earlier. I'm sure you're processing a great deal. But I need you to understand something. My nephew is not a man who opens his heart easily. What he feels for you is rare, real. If you walk away, you'll break something in him that's already fragile. Consider that, before you make your final decision. Isla wanted to throw her phone across the room. Instead, she typed back, "He lied to me. About everything." The response came quickly. "He protected you from a truth you weren't ready to hear. There's a difference. In our world, ignorance is sometimes the kindest gift." She didn't respond, couldn't respond, because part of her, a treacherous, stupid part, understood. If Dante had told her the truth on New Year's Eve, she never would have called, never would have given him a chance, never would have discovered that beneath the danger, there was a man who made her feel seen. But was that enough? Could feelings overcome the reality of what he was? Isla finally fell asleep around 4 a.m., her phone clutched in her hand, her dreams full of dark cars and hospital rooms and kisses that tasted like goodbye. She woke up 3 hours later to May shaking her shoulder. Isla, wake up." "What?" She sat up groggily. "What's wrong?" "There's someone at the May door. A man. He says Dante sent him." May looked scared. "He's really big, Isla. And he's just standing there waiting." Isla's blood went cold. She grabbed her phone, no new messages, and went to the door. Through the peephole, she saw the driver from Dante's car, the massive man with the shaved head who'd driven her to dinner 2 weeks ago. She cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged. "What do you want?" "Miss Chen." His voice was surprisingly gentle for someone his size. "My name is Marcus. Mr. Moretti asked me to provide security for you and your sister." "I don't want security. With respect, ma'am, it's not about what you want. It's about keeping you safe." Marcus gestured down the hallway. "There are people who might have noticed Mr. Moretti's interest in you. People who would see that as an opportunity. I'm here to make sure that opportunity never materializes. I told Dante not to contact me. That includes sending bodyguards. He's not trying to change your Ari. Mind, he's trying to keep you alive." Marcus met her eyes. "Please, Miss Chen, let me do my job. You won't even know I'm here." Isla wanted to refuse. Wanted to slam the door and pretend none of this was happening. But the fear in Marcus's voice was real. The danger was real. "Fine," she said finally. "But stay out of sight. My sister doesn't need to know about this." "Too late for that," May said from behind her. "Isla, what's going on? Why do we need security?" There was no good way to explain it. So Isla told her sister the truth about Dante, about the Moretti family, about the danger that came with accidentally catching a Mafia boss's attention. May listened without interrupting, her face going pale. When Isla finished, her sister was quiet for a long moment. "So you're just going to walk away?" May asked finally. "What choice do I have?" "You could fight for him. He's a criminal, May. He hurts people. He also fell in love with his sister's janitor, and is spending resources to keep us safe even though you told him to leave you alone." May grabbed Isla's hands. "I'm not saying what he does is right, but people are complicated. Maybe he's both things, dangerous and good, wrong and right, bad and worth fighting for. You sound like you're defending him. I'm defending you. You're right to want something for yourself, even if it's messy and complicated." May's eyes filled with tears. "Isla, you've spent 5 years putting your life on hold for me, and I love you for it, but I'm not a child anymore. I can take care of myself. You don't have to sacrifice everything just to keep me safe." "That's not what I'm doing." "Yes, it is. You're using me as an excuse not to take risks, not to want things, not to live." May squeezed her hands. "But Isla, I want you to live. I want you to be happy. And if Dante Moretti makes you happy, then maybe you should figure out if there's a way to make it work." Isla pulled away, her chest tight. "I need to get to work." She left May in the apartment and headed for the dry cleaners, hyper-aware of Marcus following at a distance. He was good at his job. Most people wouldn't notice him, but Isla felt his presence like a weight, a constant reminder of the world she'd stumbled into. At work, her manager noticed her distraction immediately. "You okay, Chen? You've been staring at that same shirt for 5 minutes." "I'm fine, just tired." But she wasn't fine. She went through the motions of steaming and pressing and hanging, but her mind was elsewhere, with Dante, with the choice she'd made, with the treacherous hope that maybe May was right, that maybe there was a way to reconcile who Dante was with what he did. Her phone buzzed during her lunch break. Not Dante, she'd expected him to respect her request for space. Instead, it was Vincenzo again. "Miss Chen, There's been a development. Please call me immediately. It concerns your safety. Her hands shook as she dialed. Vincenzo answered on the first ring. What's? Isla demanded. Are you somewhere private? She stepped into the alley behind the dry cleaners. I'm alone. What happened? The Castellano family has learned of Dante's interest in you. Vincenzo's voice was grim. They see you as leverage, as a way to hurt him. We've intercepted communications indicating they're planning to grab you within the next 48 hours. The world tilted. Grab me? You mean kidnap? Yes. And Miss Chen, these are not men who negotiate gently. If they take you, they will hurt you. They'll use you to force Dante into concessions that would cripple our family's operations. A pause. Or they'll kill you just to prove they can. Isla's legs gave out. She sat down hard on a crate, her breath coming in gasps. What do I do? You let us protect you. You and your sister. We have a safe house secure, comfortably, fully staffed. You'll stay there until we resolve the Castellano situation. Resolve it how? I think you know how. She did. Resolution. In Dante's world meant violence. Meant people dying. Meant war. This is insane, she whispered. I just wanted to work my jobs and take care of my sister. I didn't ask for any of this. I know. But you kissed my nephew at midnight, and that kiss changed everything. Vincenzo's voice softened slightly. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You seem like a good woman. You deserve better than being caught in our world. Then let me go. Tell the Castellanos I mean nothing to Dante. It's too late for that. They've already decided you're valuable. The only question now is whether you'll let us keep you safe, or if you'll try to handle this alone. He paused. And Miss Chen? If you choose the latter, you won't survive the week. Isla closed her eyes. When do we leave? Marcus will bring you and your sister to the safe house tonight. Pack only essentials. We'll provide everything else you need. After she hung up, Isla sat in the alley for a long time, trying to process how thoroughly her life had been destroyed in less than 24 hours. Yesterday, her biggest problem was making rent. Today, she was being hunted by a rival Mafia family, all because of one accidental kiss. Marcus appeared at the mouth of the alley. Miss Chen, we should go. I have 3 more hours on my shift. Your shift doesn't matter if you're dead. The bluntness shocked her into action. She went inside, told her manager she had a family emergency, and let Marcus escort her home. May was waiting, already packing after Marcus had called ahead. This is really happening? May asked as they threw clothes into duffel bags. This is really happening. Are we going to die? No. Isla hugged her sister fiercely. I won't let that happen. But as Marcus ushered them into a black SUV with bulletproof windows and drove them through the city toward an unknown destination, Isla wondered if that was a promise she could keep. The safe house was in a neighborhood Isla had never been to, the kind where every building looked like someone's carefully maintained brownstone fantasy. Marcus led them into a 3-story home that was beautiful and comfortable and felt exactly like a very nice prison. You'll be safe here, Marcus said, showing them around. Guards on rotation outside, security system that would make Fort Knox hellish, food in the kitchen, entertainment in the living room. If you need anything, ask. Can I leave? Isla asked. No. Then we don't have anything. After Marcus left, Isla and May explored their temporary home in silence. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a kitchen stocked with food they'd never be able to afford normally. It should have felt like luxury. Instead, it felt like a cage. I'm going to call Dante, Isla said finally. Good. May squeezed her shoulder. You two need to talk. She dialed the number she'd memorized without meaning to. He answered before the first ring finished. Isla. Just her name, but she heard everything underneath it. Relief. Fear. Hope. Your uncle said the Castellanos are coming for me. We've neutralized the immediate threat. A pause. But there will be others. As long as you're connected to me, you're a target. Then why not just let me go? Tell everyone I meant nothing. Because that would be a lie. Dante's voice was raw. And because even if I could convince them of that, it wouldn't matter now. They've already decided you're valuable. The only way to keep you safe is to keep you protected. For how long? Until I end this. Until the Castellanos understand that touching you means war. Until every family in New York knows that Isla Chen is under Moretti protection and coming after her is suicide. Isla pressed a hand to her forehead. You're going to start a war over me. I'm going to finish one. The Castellanos have been pushing boundaries for months. This just accelerates the timeline. He exhaled slowly. Isla, I know you're angry. I know I should have told you the truth from the beginning. But I need you to understand something. I would burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone hurt you. That's not romantic, Dante. That's terrifying. I know, but it's true. They were quiet for a moment. Then Isla asked the question that had been haunting her since she'd learned the truth. Have you killed people? He could have lied. Should have lied, probably. Instead, he said simply, yes. How many? Enough that I stopped counting years ago. She should hang up, should curse him and block his number and find a way to disappear that didn't involve his protection. But instead, she asked, do you regret it? Some of them. The ones who didn't deserve it, who were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. A pause. But most of them? No. They were threats to my family, to innocent people, to the order we've built. I did what needed to be done. You sound like you think you're the good guy. I'm not. I've never pretended to be. Dante's voice softened. But I protect what's mine. And whether you want it or not, you're mine now. You have been since you kissed me at midnight. That's not how it works. Isn't it? Tell me you don't feel it too. Tell me that when you kissed me, something didn't shift in your chest. Tell me you haven't spent the last 2 weeks feeling like maybe, finally, someone understood you. He paused. Tell me I'm wrong, Isla. Tell me this is all in my head. She couldn't, because he wasn't wrong. From the moment her lips had touched his in that crowded street, something had changed. Something fundamental and terrifying and impossible to deny. I'm scared, she whispered. So am I. You don't seem like someone who gets scared. I'm terrified every second you're in danger because of me. Terrified that I've ruined your life just by being in it. Terrified that you'll never forgive me for dragging you into my world. His voice cracked slightly. But I'm more terrified of losing you. Of never hearing your voice again. Or seeing your smile or listening to you talk about your dreams. Isla's eyes burned with tears. What do? We figure it out. Together. A pause. Will you let me see you? I won't push, won't ask for anything you're not ready to give. I need to see that you're okay. She should say no. Should maintain distance until she figured out what she wanted. But the truth was, she already knew what she wanted. She wanted him. Despite everything, she wanted Dante Moretti. Tomorrow, she said. Come tomorrow. I'll be there at 10. Relief flooded his voice. Thank you, Isla. Thank you for not giving up on me. After they hung up, Isla sat in the beautiful safe house that felt like a prison and wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Or if maybe, just maybe, she was finally making the right choice. Dante arrived at exactly 10 a.m., dressed in dark jeans and a black sweater that made him look younger, more vulnerable. Marcus let him in, then disappeared with May to give them privacy. They stood in the living room, 3 feet of space between them that felt like miles. Hi, Isla said stupidly. Hi. Dante didn't move closer. You look tired. I didn't sleep much. Turns out being hunted by the Mafia is stressful. I'm sorry. God, Isla, I'm so sorry. He ran a hand through his hair, destroying its usual perfect style. I never wanted this for you. Never wanted you to see the worst parts of my world. But this is your world. This violence, this danger, it's who you are. It's what I do. It's not who I am. He took a step closer. Who I am is the man who brings you coffee because he knows you skip breakfast. Who listens when you talk about your dreams, even though I've never cared about anyone else's dreams in my life. Who thinks about you constantly, obsessively, to the point where Vincenzo says, I'm distracted and dangerous. Am I supposed to find that romantic? No, you're supposed to find it honest. Another step. I'm not good, Isla. I've done terrible things. I'll probably do more terrible things before this is over. But with you, I want to be better. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. And what man is that? Someone worth loving. The words hit her like a physical blow. Dante, I love you. He said it simply, like it was fact. I know it's too soon and too fast, and you have every reason to run. But I love you, Isla Chen. I loved you when you apologized for interrupting my grief. I loved you when you kissed me by accident. I loved you when you let me drive you home and trusted me with your stories. And I'll love you even if you walk away. Even if you never forgive me. Even if this is the last time I see you. Isla's tears spilled over. How am I supposed to respond to that? However you want. I'm not asking for anything. I'm just telling you the truth. She crossed the space between them in 3 steps and kissed him. Not gently, not carefully, but with all the fear and anger, and desperate hope churning in her chest. Dante caught her, his arms coming around her like a fortress, and kissed her back with the same intensity. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Isla pressed her forehead to his chest. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to love someone whose world is so different from mine. We'll figure it out. His hand stroked her hair. We'll build something new. Something that's ours. What if I can't handle it? What if I see something I can't forgive? Then I'll let you go. He tilted her face up to meet his eyes. I won't hold you prisoner, Isla. Not physically. Not emotionally. If you decide this is too much, I'll make sure you and May are protected and I'll walk away. But until then, let me try. Let me show you that what we have is worth fighting for. She wanted to. God, she wanted to believe him. But doubt still whispered in the back of her mind, reminding her of all the ways this could go wrong. The Castellanos, she said. What are you going to do about them? Dante's expression hardened. I'm going to end it. Permanently. You're going to kill them. Their leadership, yes. The ones responsible for threatening you. He didn't flinch from the truth. I won't apologize for protecting you, Isla. Not even if you hate me for it. I don't hate you. She pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I don't know if I can live in a world where violence is the solution to every problem. It's not the solution to every problem. But when someone threatens the woman I love, violence is the only language they understand. Before Isla could respond, Marcus burst through the door. Boss, we have a situation. Dante was instantly alert. What kind of situation? Castellanos' men just grabbed May. The world stopped. Isla couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what Marcus had just said. What? She went out the back to take a call. Said it was her school advisor. But it was a setup. Marcus looked sick. They had a van waiting. I got there 30 seconds too late. Isla screamed. The sound ripped from her throat, raw and broken, and she lunged for the door. Dante caught her, holding her back even as she fought him. Let me go. They have my sister. They have May. I know. And we're going to get her back. Dante's voice was iron hard. But you running into danger won't help her. You need to let me handle this. How? How are you going to handle this? Isla was sobbing now, her worst nightmare materializing. They took her because of me. Because I was stupid enough to kiss you. Stupid enough to... This is not your fault. Dante grabbed her face, forcing her to look at him. This is on the Castellanos. And they're going to regret it. He pulled out his phone, dialed. Vincenzo. They took the sister. Gather everyone. Full mobilization. I want every location they've used in the last year under surveillance in the next 10 minutes. A pause. Yes. All of them. And Vin? Tell the men to gear up. This ends tonight. After he hung up, Dante turned back to Isla. She'd stopped fighting, but she was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. I'm coming with you, she said. Absolutely not. She's my sister, my responsibility. I'm not sitting here while I what? Start a war? Dante's eyes blazed. That's exactly what's about to happen, Isla. The Castellanos just crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. This isn't going to be clean or pretty or something you can watch and still sleep at night. I don't care. She's my sister. She's all I have. If something happens to her... Her voice broke. Please let me come. I can't just sit here not knowing. Dante looked torn. Then he said something that surprised her. Okay, but you stay in the car. You don't see anything, you don't do anything. Marcus keeps you safe while I get May back. Understood? Isla nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. His expression was grim. You're about to see what I really am. And Isla? There's no going back from this. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I don't care. Just get my sister back. Within an hour, Dante's entire organization had mobilized. Isla sat in the back of an SUV with bulletproof glass, watching an army assemble. Men in tactical gear, weapons she didn't want to identify, vehicles that looked like they belonged in a war zone. This was Dante's world. Not the expensive dinners and gentle kisses. This, violence and power and the cold calculation of men preparing to kill. Vincenzo climbed into the SUV, nodded to Isla. We've located her. Castellano warehouse on the docks. They're not trying to hide, they want us to come. It's a trap, Marcus said from the driver's seat. Of course it's a trap. Dante checked his gun with practiced efficiency. But they made a mistake. They think taking May will make me desperate and stupid. Instead, it's just given me permission to do what I've wanted to do for months. Which is? Isla asked. Dante met her eyes in the rearview mirror. End the Castellano family permanently. The convoy moved through the city like a dark tide. Isla counted at least 6 vehicles, maybe 30 men total. This wasn't a rescue operation. This was an invasion. When they reached the docks, Dante turned to her one last time. Stay in the car. Marcus, if anything happens to me, you get her and her sister to safety. Give them new identities, new lives far from here. Whatever it costs. Boss, that's an order. Dante looked at Isla. I love you. Whatever happens in there, remember that. Then he was gone, moving with his men toward the warehouse. Isla pressed against the window, her heart in her throat. The first gunshot made her flinch. Then there were more, dozens. The sound echoed across the water, punctuated by shouts and the crash of breaking glass. I can't see, Isla said desperately. Marcus, I can't see what's happening. That's the point, Miss Chen. But she needed to see, needed to know that Dante was okay, that May was alive. Before Marcus could stop her, she'd opened the door and was running toward the warehouse. Miss Chen, Marcus shouted, but she didn't stop. She burst through a side door into chaos. Men fighting, shooting, bleeding. The air smelled like gunpowder and fear. And there, in the center of it all, was Dante. He moved like death incarnate, presses lethal unstoppably. She watched him disarm one man, shoot another, and then he was moving toward the back where, Isla, May's voice. Isla's head snapped around, and she saw her sister tied to a chair, terrified but alive. Then someone grabbed Isla from behind. An arm locked around her throat, cutting off her air. A gun pressed against her temple. The fighting stopped as everyone turned to look. Nobody move. The man holding her young, sweating, panicked shouted, Nobody fucking move or I blow her brains out. Dante froze. For the first time since she'd met him, Isla saw real fear on his face. Let her go, he said quietly. This is between us. She's not part of it. She became part of it when you decided to fuck a civilian. The man's voice was shrill. Mr. Castellano said you'd come. Said you'd be stupid and reckless. And we could use your weakness against you. Guess he was right. The gun pressed harder against Isla's head. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This was how she died. In a warehouse on the docks, because she'd kissed the wrong man at midnight. Please, Dante said, and the word sounded wrong in his mouth. Please. I'll give you whatever you want. Territory, money, complete withdrawal from all disputed areas. Just let her go. You think I have authority to negotiate? The man laughed, high and strained. I'm just supposed to kill her and hope it hurts you enough that you make mistakes. So that's what I'm gonna... The shot came from the side. The man holding Isla jerked, his grip loosening. She dropped to the ground as his body fell beside her. Vincenzo stood there, gun still raised. Nobody threatens this family. Then everything exploded into motion again. Isla scrambled toward May as Dante fought his way to the chair. He cut May's bonds, pulled her up, and then he was dragging both sisters toward the exit, while his men provided cover. They made it to the SUV. Marcus had it running, doors open. They piled in, and the vehicle was moving before Dante even closed the door. Isla held May, both of them shaking, both crying. Are you hurt? She demanded. Did they hurt you? I'm okay. I'm okay. May clung to her. Isla, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have gone outside. I should have... Shh. It's not your fault. Isla looked up at Dante. He was bleeding from a cut on his cheek. His knuckles were raw, and his eyes were hollow. Is it over? Yes. His voice was empty. Castellano's dead. So are his sons. His lieutenants. Anyone who might have taken over. It's done. You killed them all. I killed them all. He met her. And I'd do it again. They took May. They threatened you. They left me no choice. Isla should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the blood on his hands, the death in his eyes. Instead, she reached across the seat and took his hand. Thank you, she said quietly, for getting my sister back. Dante's expression cracked. He brought her hand to his lips, kissed it, and Isla saw tears in his eyes for the first time. I almost lost you. When that gun was against your head, His voice broke. I would have given them everything. Burned my entire empire to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. I know. And she did. She'd seen it in his face. The raw terror, the desperate need. But you didn't have to. We're okay. We're all okay. They went back to the safe house. Medics checked May and Isla for injuries, found nothing but bruises and shock. Someone cleaned Dante's wounds while he gave orders on the phone, organizing cleanup, managing fallout, running an empire, even as he bled. Later, after May had finally fallen asleep, and the safe house had settled into quiet, Isla found Dante standing on the back terrace. He'd changed clothes but still looked haunted. Can't sleep? She asked, joining him. Every time I close my eyes, I see that gun against your head. He didn't look at her. I see a world where I wasn't fast enough, where Vincenzo hesitated for 1 second longer, where I had to live with losing you. But you didn't lose me. Isla took his hand. I'm here. We're both here. You shouldn't be. You should take May and run as far from me as possible. Finally, he looked at her. You saw what I am tonight. What I'm capable of. You should be terrified. I am terrified. She stepped closer. I'm terrified of your world, of the violence and the danger and the constant threat. I'm terrified that loving you means accepting things I never thought I could accept. That watching someone die to save me has changed something fundamental in who I am. Then go. I'll set you up somewhere safe. You and May will want for nothing. Just... His voice cracked. Just be safe and happy somewhere. I can't ruin it. What if I don't want to go? Isla cupped his face. What if I want to stay and figure this out? Build something with you despite how complicated and messy and impossible it seems? Why? After everything you've seen, why would you stay? Because when you looked at me tonight, when that gun was against my head, I wasn't thinking about how to escape or survive. I was thinking that if I died, I'd regret not telling you one thing. She took a breath. I love you, Dante Moretti. I love you despite your world, despite the danger, despite everything that says this is the worst idea I've ever had. I love you. Dante pulled her against him, burying his face in her hair. Say it again. I love you. Again. I love you. She pulled back to look at him. But I need you to promise me something. I need you to promise that you'll try to. Keep the violence separate from me. That you'll let me have my life, my jobs, my dreams, my sister without dragging them into your world more than necessary. I promise. God, Isla, I promise. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. You can have anything you want. I'll build you the bakery, set up May's college fund, make sure you never have to work 2 jobs again. Whatever you need to feel safe and happy. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? You. She smiled through tears. Just you. The man who brings me coffee and listens to my dreams and looks at me like I'm something miraculous. That's who I want. You have me. Always. He rested his forehead against hers. I'm yours, Isla Chen, for as long as you'll have me. They stood there on the terrace, as the sun began to rise over the city. 2 people from completely different worlds trying to build something new. It wouldn't be easy. There would be more danger, more violence, more moments where Isla questioned her choice. But as Dante held her and whispered promises against her skin, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. That accidental kiss at midnight had changed everything, and she wouldn't take it back for anything in the world. 6 months later, Isla stood in front of a small storefront in a safe neighborhood far from both Chinatown and Dante's usual territory. The lease was signed, the contractor was scheduled, and the sign above the door read, Chen's Bakery, opening soon. May stood beside her, now enrolled in a 4-year nursing program at a good university. no longer worried about tuition or rent, or whether her sister was working herself to death. And Dante stood behind them both, his hand warm on Isla's shoulder, his presence a constant reminder that she was protected, cherished, loved. "You did it," he said softly. "Your dream. We did it." Isla turned to kiss him. "This is ours. All of it. It wasn't perfect." Dante still disappeared for business that she didn't ask about. She still sometimes woke up from nightmares about guns and warehouses, and the moment she'd thought she'd lose everything, there were still guards she pretended not to notice, and security measures that were excessive for a bakery. But there was also this: morning coffee and quiet conversations. May's laughter echoing through their new apartment, a real apartment with working elevators and radiators that didn't clang. The way Dante looked at Isla like she was his entire world. They'd built something messy and complicated and imperfect, but it was theirs. And it had started with one accidental kiss at midnight. "I love you," Isla said, meaning it with everything in her. "I love you more." Dante pulled her close. "My midnight girl, my salvation." And as the sun set over their bakery, over their life, over the future they were building together one day at a time, Isla Chen knew she'd made the right choice. She'd kissed the wrong man, and found exactly the right life. 1 year later, on another New Year's Eve, Isla stood in the same crowded Chinatown street where it had all begun. But this time, Dante's arms were already around her. This time, the kiss at midnight wasn't an accident. When the countdown reached 0 and their lips met, Isla tasted champagne and promises, and a future she'd stopped being afraid of. Around them, strangers celebrated. Above them, fireworks painted the sky in gold and red. "Make a wish," Dante whispered against her mouth. "I don't need to." Isla smiled. "I already have everything I want." He pulled back just enough to slip something onto her finger, a ring that caught the light from 1,000 lanterns. "Simple, elegant, perfect. Marry me," he said. "Not a question. A vow. Yes. No hesitation, no fear. Just certainty. Because some accidents were actually fate in disguise. Some wrong turns led exactly where you needed to be, and some midnight kisses changed everything. Isla Chen had accidentally kissed a Mafia boss and found her forever, and she wouldn't change a single moment of it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.